Hi, YouTube family. Welcome to another installment of Feel Free TV. I'm here with the one and only Snow Billy. Thanks for coming on the show. Appreciate you, bro.
No
All
doubt,
right.
man. You know it's nobody in the building, man.
And for those who don't know, Snow Billy is a former non-Trey gangster, author of 69 Shots, co-founder of Think Tank. He's got a YouTube channel called Snow Billy Television. And what's the other YouTube channel you got, bro?
Snow Billy Frank Stand Show.
Exactly. So y'all tune in and check him out on there. So first thing I just wanted to ask, just tell us a little small history of Snow Billy and how you grew up.
I grew up in the Bedford-Stuyvesant section of Brooklyn. My mother is Black, African American, Indian, and my father is Japanese and Dominican. And my mother come from the Roosevelt housing projects because that's where her mother come from. You know, and my father, he came from the Tompkins housing projects. And my mother, after like a certain amount of years, my mother was able to progress and she was able to get her finances right. And she got involved in the funeral service and, was able to purchase houses throughout Queens and Brooklyn. So I grew up for the most part at the age of probably like starting public school. I grew up in the funeral home service business. And my mother, to show me a better life than where she came from. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Then her brothers and her sisters coming from. You logged out, bro.
No, I'm here, bro. I just got you.
So, my mother wanted to show me and my I have a brother I'm a lot years older than, but she wanted to show us a different life than where she came up from coming up. My uncles is notorious guys from Roosevelt housing projects. Where's my mother from? 128 Lewis Avenue. So, my mother was able to get a funeral home and a few houses and, to show us a life. And from the age when I started going to public school, I grew up in the funeral home service business up to like junior high school, and I started getting in trouble. And I was raised from that point on in the New York City juvenile detention centers.
Wow. So was your father in your life, or did you have a father figure growing up?
Yeah, my father was actually there. After my mother, my father separated. My father, he retreated back to his mother home in the Tompkins housing projects. And I would go visit him frequently because I was only 6 blocks down the block on Tompkins and Jefferson. So it was always frequent. I always was back and forth from Mother Brownstone to the projects, Mother Brownstone to the projects. You know what I mean? From Tompkins projects to Roosevelt projects, Marcy projects. All my aunts and my great aunts, they all grew up in the housing projects. Because my great grandfather, when they came here from South Carolina, he became one of them big NYCHA housing people in Fort Greene. So he was able to get his daughters in all the NYCHA projects like Farragut, Marcy, Sumner, and all that. So my mother coming from Roosevelt, and when I say my great grandfather, that's my grandfather's father, my mother's father. Yeah. My moms grew up in the same environment, the NYCHA. But we grew up in Roosevelt. But my mother was able to get her shit together, and she purchased a lot of property. So I grew up kind of differently, but I was still still in the slums because that's where I came from. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So
but my father was there. I always visit my father back and forth.
Okay. So what influenced you to become Blood? Do you think it was your environment or family dynamics?
Well, interesting, right? I caught a attempt murder charge when I was 13 years old, and when I got home, it was on the news. And my mother decided to send me down to Little Rock, Arkansas with her great aunt, my Aunt Lucille. And my mother was under the impression that my Aunt Lucille was living a different kind of life in Little Rock, Arkansas. My mother had never been down there, so I had caught attempt murder, and she sent me down there to get out of New York. And when I got down there, the shit was gang affiliated. Yeah. And me living with my Aunt Lucille and all my cousins, that was Blood down there. I became Blood like that. Like I didn't become blood in New York. By me going to Little Rock, Arkansas, that's where I became blood at. And my aunt lived in the Highland Park courts, and that's where the Highland Park Pyrus come from. So growing up down there, from the time I was on a run from New York until I got caught down there and extradited back to the city, that's when I took on the blood lifestyle.
Okay. Wow. So, in your opinion, what's the difference between New York and California Bloods?
California Bloods was born into this culture. California, when it comes to the gang culture, is very thick because it's about territory and how the growth came there. Being that California was so dominated with different cultures, it had to be gangs formed to protect their territory. New York is not territorial, only when it comes to drug-related situations. You understand what I'm saying? Not livelihood. And plus, California, this is really the way of life. This is not a fad in California.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like Bloods and Crips is not a style. It's not something that you go from this set to that set. This is where you grew up at. This is your set. This is where you from. This is where you be traced back to. New York, you have dudes from Bronx, Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, Staten Island, all on one set. That's not even from the same neighborhood.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of difference, man. Like I said before in the past, the blood was only created in New York on Rikers Island because what they was going through, the oppression with the Latin inmates.
Yeah.
So that's why the Bloods was formed. Bloods was never formed on the street level in New York City until I got to New York with the behavior of the Highland Park Pyru back in Brooklyn in 1994. But it's a lot different because, like, you see these guys in New York, they not. It's like, okay, cool. Bloods is cool on Monday, then they had another gang on Wednesday.
Yeah.
In LA,
yeah.
When you that set till you die.
Yeah. So why do you think that LA gang culture took hold in New York so quick and so strong?
I mean, New York went through a phase. As you can see now New York is jacking the Chicago lane.
Yeah.
With the Chicago gangsters now. You got the GDs, the BDs in New York. At one point, it was the LA style they took.
Yeah.
But it became so popular in New York is because of what took place in Rikers Island.
Oh, that's okay.
There's a guy named Mac. That's a rat that allegedly came from California, but he told on a guy named he from the I've been locked up with this guy too. Tom Cross. Tom Cross is from the Bronx. He killed this kid named OG Ty. And OG Ty wasn't blood, but he was the guy Mac, brother. Mac told on Tom Cross. Tom Cross, Tom Cross is upstate for 50 or 100 years. So Mac came over to New York. Well, allegedly he came from California and turned the guys on Rikers Island Bloods. But like, it don't go like that.
Yeah.
So New York is not really a gang-related state. They just take on fast. Like now you got the New York taking on Chicago lifestyle.
But what's crazy? New York wasn't always like that.
Right, but times changed. It's like now you see, like, first it was LA. Same thing I said. I come from Little Rock, Arkansas. I come to New York with the blood thing. They don't even understand what a red flag is.
They was looking at you like you was crazy.
Yo, listen, bro. I'm on Gates, Marcus Garvey, and True. The residents over there is like, what are them guys? Some guys blood. Like, they like, yo, what all like they like, ain't that some LA stuff? But they didn't know that LA gangs and culture spiraled down to the south.
Mm-hmm.
So me being in Little Rock and then leaving Little Rock, coming to New York, I'm in New York. I'm still who I was in Little Rock. But now I'm in New York. New York got all these other different kind of gangs there. And they looking at us like, it ain't no such thing of Bloods over here. Because they only associating it with West Coast.
California, yeah.
Right. They don't know that this thing then spiraled down all into certain parts of
or the South, yeah.
The South. You know what I mean? Especially Little Rock. Have you ever seen Banging in Little Rock HBO series? My family is in that. You know what I mean? So it's like we come from the Highland Park courts, you know. That's why we Highland Park Perus. But it's crazy how New York just jumped from, and me being from New York, Brooklyn, Bed-Stuy, you know, born in Brooklyn Jewish Hospital, to see how they went from, first it was this, now everybody's screaming this set or that set, but I don't know, this shit is crazy, bro.
So, like, nowadays, you got a lot of rappers that's associated with some type of gang. Like, what do you think about that?
Hold on. I liked that question too. That was interesting too. I'm gonna answer that right for you. A lot of rappers associate themselves with the gang culture because it's the image and it's the power that come with it. So if you're a rapper and you portraying that, you know, you have access to, let's just give a number of $500,000 cash. That's a lot to some gang members in some urban areas. And to be able to offer them with certain elements like strip clubs, fame, and people is obsessed with that. So if you're able to wave that in their face in some slum area, like let's say Chicago, you know, Louisiana, you know, Mississippi, you know, you show 36 guys like you got $500,000 cash, you're like the big guy.
Yeah.
And as a rapper, you need that as your image, so people could buy into what you presenting.
Yeah.
You know, like you showing that, you know, you part of this gang, and they backing you. That gives you that clout you need to be able to move around. Something similar to the whole 6ix9ine situation.
Yeah.
Not to really bring them up though.
And what's crazy is it's like a lot of rappers is using that formula. That's like their algorithm right now.
You know, shit is annoying too, bro. I look at that shit and I be like, shit is so corny, because it's like it's other things to get involved in that just that. You know, it's too much creative avenues out here to just associate yourself with or portraying like you down with this gang.
Yeah.
Because let me tell you something, no gang members, look at me. Do I like a gang member? Or once gang associated?
Nah.
Because we don't want to be that. Real gang leaders want to be legit, man.
Yeah. So what would you tell a kid that's infatuated with the streets and the gang culture and want to become a part of that? What would you tell them?
I tell them admire and fall in love with the guy who changed. Fall in love with the guy who been through that shit. That's the guy who you fall in love with and who you say, I want to take after.
Because you know, that's most people
he gotta do. He got to say, you know what? I want to become this gang member, but I see a guy here, I know his story. Let me follow that. Because I know at the end of the day, that's where it's at. This shit here only gonna lead you, like my organization I got called 3 Straight Lanes. Go straight, stay straight, keep straight. It's 3 lanes in life. Cemetery, success, the penitentiary. 3 lanes. You might not be so lucky going to either lane, man. You might not make it out of coma.
Yep.
You might get shot in your head and might not make it out. You might get a life sentence in the penitentiary and might not get no input through the appellate division.
Yeah.
So it ain't guaranteed you go be successful in these 2 lanes. The odds is against you. And there's only one odds against you through the straight lane. Take the straight lane, shorty. That's the best lane, man. I'm on the straight lane. Look at me. I can't ask for nothing. I mean, like I'm in the straight lane, man. Like no matter what, the straight lane is the best lane, man. And that's what I tell kids. Like, yo, listen, if you fascinated with the gang shit, get you Find you. Find you. You can hear me?
Yeah, I got you. I can hear you.
Hear me, bro?
Yeah, I hear you.
Find you a gang, a former gang leader or a former gang member that was in that lifestyle, and then went through what he went through, and then went straight. And that's the guy who you idol, man. And that's the guy who you say, you know what?
Yeah.
I ain't gotta be in a gang just to go through what he went through, because he showed me what he went through, so I could go around that and get to where he going and still be affiliated.